Hi, I'm Daniel Gold, and welcome to another episode of the Gold Standard Leadership Lab. By day, I'm a partner at a leading advisory firm where I draw upon my background as an attorney to help my clients succeed. This podcast, though, is my personal project, completely separate and apart from my day job, yet driven by the same passion I bring to everything I do: teaching, mentoring, sharing simple, impactful lessons that you can put into action. It is my hope you'll walk away with practical takeaways to help you on your leadership journey. Thanks for being a part of this community and for joining me in the Leadership Lab. Let's get started. How many times have we found ourselves in the same predicament, believing that the next promotion, the next raise, the next job, our next house, car, or life partner will bring us the happiness and fulfillment that we have always sought? It's a familiar and very rational thought. But what happens, though, when we finally reach that next milestone, that next goal that we have set for ourselves? The happiness that we anticipated dissipates as quickly as the bubbles on promotion day. And there's a name for this. It is a psychological trap called the arrival fallacy. So I want to talk for a moment about where this idea comes from. Harvard lecturer Tal Ben-Shahar, who popularized positive psychology, coined the term after noticing how we constantly look to the next milestone for happiness. This observation, which is backed by behavioral science, is that when we finally arrive, air quotes, we quickly adapt and then just reset our expectations, creating a cycle of chasing instead of savoring. Now, many senior leaders today describe the same frustration. They hit their goals only to feel strangely unfulfilled. Yale University's Laurie Santos, who teaches the science of well-being, also a fabulous podcaster, explains that our brains adapt rapidly to new circumstances. So the satisfaction of achievement vanishes sooner than expected. Now, we also see this from researcher and one of my favorite authors, Shawn Achor. So Achor flips the script entirely. Achor says that happiness is not the outcome of success, but rather it's the starting point. Another excellent speaker and author on this topic, Arthur Brooks, calls it the striver's curse. And that is defined as the paradox where relentless achievers feel emptiest because fulfillment always seems just out of reach. Each one of these experts underscores a truth that leaders rarely voice. Milestones are mile markers. They are not destinations. The problem is that leadership truly magnifies this arrival fallacy. You've got metrics, revenue, targets, promotions, bonuses, raises. They all dominate the scoreboard. Every number promises validation. Every win is meant to deliver what we think is lasting worth. And in today's workplace, rushing from one project to the next, the space between milestones often feels like a holding pattern, not real progress. The further problem is that this whole wait for the next win culture doesn't really motivate. It starts to burn people out. Suppose you are defining and emphasizing to your team that success only comes through such external results. In that case, you may be teaching your teams that their meaning as an employee is not in the present, but rather always down the road, the old carrot and stick. So eventually what's going to happen is that morale will collapse between the victories and organizational resilience will erode with it. So there is an alternative here. It's interesting that if all the researchers are saying is true, then what actually builds real fulfillment? The researchers who study this don't say achieve more. There's a unifying thread in each one of these frameworks. And that is what the focus should be, on the journey and not the outcome. Let me say that again. The unifying thread among all the researchers is that the focus should be on the journey and not the outcome. So, for instance, Tal Ben-Shahar has a model, a framework called the SPIRE model. SPIRE is an acronym for spiritual, physical, intellectual, relational, and emotional well being. And it's all about pursuing balance. It's not just the finish lines. In other words, it's about savoring the moments. Sean Aker talks about small habits like gratitude, journaling, and genuine connection. I believe that because those are part of my daily practices, and they truly do cultivate happiness now. Aker reframed success as not an outcome of happiness, but rather the other way around. Arthur Brooks, he aligns goals with the daily practice of love and service instead of pure achievement. And Laurie Santos, I love this, she talks about how happiness is built in the doing, not in the arriving. This is the core idea behind something called the journey mindset. In other words, it is literally all about enjoying the journey. Note that not one of those researchers I just talked about says wait for the happiness to arrive. They all say build it through daily practice. And that should be the idea. So I want to get a little personal now and talk a little bit about how I've learned this lesson of appreciating living in the moment as opposed to continuously striving for never-ending finish lines with my own real marathon training. Look, it's easy to slip into the arrival fallacy thinking that if I can just cross that one finish line, then I'll be proud of myself. If I could just hit one more personal best, oh man, I'll be really proud of myself. But the real joy is in the training. It's the early mornings. It's the discipline. It's the quiet progress that nobody sees. The pleasure is in the running itself and not the race, not the actual finish line. If I'm only waiting for race day to feel fulfilled, then I literally miss the gift of every run and every mile and what it has to teach me, because I learned something in every run. This analogy has quite literally translated itself and bled itself into my work life, how I work with my team, how I work with my clients. It's also bled into my personal life of how I am as a husband, how I am as a parent. It's about appreciating the moments, both good as well as bad. Leadership is literally no different. If celebration only happens at the finish, we literally rob ourselves and our teams of satisfaction in the journey. So here are 4 actionable ways to fight the arrival fallacy starting right now. At your next team meeting, make a point to celebrate not just the outcomes, but also the effort, learning, and improvement that went into achieving the results. This practice will inspire and motivate your team to focus on the journey and not the destination. But it's also really, really important to model integrated well-being yourself. Share how you are caring for yourself physically, relationally, and emotionally, not just professionally. Build meaning-making rituals. Begin meetings with reflections on progress or learning. Close projects by discussing growth, not just results. Finally, ask present-focused questions. Swap "when will we finish" for "what are we discovering right now?" or "how is this work changing us?" Some goals, though, do require delayed gratification, like quarterly results, promotions, etc. But sustainable fulfillment comes from daily practice, not deferred destiny. Great leaders help their teams hold both truths at the same time. Achievements do matter, but happiness is not waiting at a finish line. So here's my challenge to you. If your team knew that they would stay in their current roles for the next 3 years, would they still find meaning and satisfaction in their daily work? If the answer is no, you may have built a culture trapped by the arrival fallacy. If it's yes, you've created something rare, an organization that thrives now and in the future. Look, the arrival fallacy promises happiness that's just around the corner, but great leaders know better. Fulfillment is built mile by mile, conversation by conversation, and habit by habit. True leadership is finding joy in the journey and helping others do the same. Remember, leadership isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Take this lesson, put it into action, and continue setting the gold standard in your own life and at work. See you next time.